Well, welcome back to Thoughts While Thinking. And just remember that the opinions on this video are mine and mine alone, and they don't represent anybody else's. And I appreciate T-SPAN, the Texas News Net Digest, that gives us a little technical support here, and we appreciate that. And we probably are rearranging some prejudices here, but I'm thinking that we're just thinking. And we may be making some judgments here, but I think we're doing that hard and difficult thing in thinking because we're looking at the facts of the matter. And we got to look at this situation here. You know, back at the Civil War days, the Fed rights and the states' rights were in big conflict with one another. The North and the Republicans wanted those federal rights, and the Southern states wanted those states' rights because the North was just giving them a hard time on taxes and tariffs and everything. And the 10th Amendment of the Constitution said that anything that wasn't just written out in detail for the federal government belonged to the states. Well, that posed a real problem for the North because they didn't want to do anything about that. So they devised this deal about they was going to free the slaves and take over the South. And that was really about just the economic control of the South, just like Charles Dickens said. So they were just working real hard on that, and the 10th Amendment was all in the way, and the South thought they could succeed under that amendment because they thought they had the power. And but the North just kept putting those restrictive tariffs on the South, and the South said, "Enough's enough. We're going to get out of here." And so they used the 10th Amendment to think about succeeding, and they got into this real tug of war. And so anyway, it ended up in the Civil War, as you know, in 1863. And the just as soon as the war was over, they passed the 14th Amendment, which took away all the states' rights out of the 10th Amendment, and that was what the war was basically all about in the first place. So well, anyway, we go along here, and in this 14th Amendment, we got this Section 8, Clause 1. Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, and imposts, and excise, and pay debts, and provide for common defense and general welfare. Okay, this general welfare is the catch-all that is causing us all the issues that we're going through today because that gives Congress all that power to make that work. And they also use that Section 1(8), Clause 3, the Commerce Clause, which gives them another deal that they can work in behalf of the states and the Indian tribes and all of that. So that gives them more power. So they just have that Commerce Clause and that 14th Amendment to take away all of the rights of the states that they had under the 10th Amendment. And the 10th Amendment was issued and ratified under that good cause. They wanted to protect the new freed slaves' right to vote, and that was an admirable cause, and that was in behalf of a good cause. But Thomas Paine said the greatest tyrannies are always perpetuated in the name of the noblest cause. Well, that was a noble cause. And the 14th Amendment, under the protection of the ethnic differences, gives the Congress a tremendous hand in the right. And they didn't abolish slavery, I don't believe. They just changed the name of it. And if the definition of slavery is 100% of a man's labor is free, then what percent of his labor is not free. So what percent is not slavery? Well, let's think about that. But anyway, look at this right here. We got the income tax, we got the sales tax, we got the property tax, we got the capital gains tax, we got the inheritance tax. We're just taxed out our ever living ear. And, our rights really don't come from the government, they come from the higher power. So we got to think about it, really think about these rights that we're supposed to have. And Congress, they just pass these deals, and the more they pass, the more it sinks the citizens. It's just like throwing a big old anvil out for a life-saving device. So we just uh, go along, and right now we're realizing that Congress can't be trusted. And they got that big power surge going, and they're just taking away every freedom, every right of liberty, and that we had. And Michael Boland said that if you attack one part of the Constitution, you attack it all. Well, I think that the 14th Amendment attacked the whole Constitution. Well, anyway, back in the 1984 book, it was dangerous to be right when the government is wrong. Well, I think if you look at the situation that we're in right now, that's probably part of the same deal. We may be in danger for being right and the government being wrong. Well, the amendment was also reserve the power. The states cannot relax a federal law, but they can add to it and make it stronger. Well, think about that for a minute. There again, that just disassembles those states' rights. And right now, the government and the school unions and the school department and all that stuff is teaching our kids cultural Marxism. Well, how can a free country like the United States under capitalism turn to a Marxist? Well, they've been working on that for a long time. And the big government has got to be bad. And both the Republicans and the Democrats are working for that big government because they got all their feed in that food trap and the swamp and all of this stuff is part of the overall plan. And also in 1984 book it says, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past." Well, that's what that critical race theory is all about, is controlling the past. Well, we ain't nothing getting anything worse. We're just coming out and being more obvious. And you got to remember that words without actions to back them up are meaningless. And you only have the rights that you're willing to fight for. And George Orwell in 1984, he said, double think means the power of holding two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting them both. Well, is that where we are now? We've got all this conflict going in our minds. And Thomas Sowell says, our may be the civilization that is destroyed by the power of our enemies, but by the ignorance of our teachers and the dangerous nonsense they're teaching our children. In an age of artificial intelligence, they are creating artificial stupidity. Well, now think about old Thomas Sowell. He has that nailed down pretty good. Well, that's the thoughts while thinking. So it's adios, amigos, and we'll see you on the flip side.